In breaking news, now that Albo has won in a landslide after fooling religious voters into voting for him, Labor and the Greens in New South Wales have done a dodgy deal to ram through the radical Greens abortion bill this week in the New South Wales Parliament. And that's today on The Dr. Jo Show. Before we get into today's topic, if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button. The more people that subscribe, the bigger our movement grows. So I woke up this morning thinking that all I'd have to do was plan a rally for tomorrow evening and to keep getting people out. Instead, my phone was ringing off the hook because Chris Minns and Labor had done a dodgy deal with Amanda Conn and the Greens party. And this is despite everything that they had assured us during the election campaign. So what they have done, and I'll flick up the notice paper now, is they've prioritised the radical Greens abortion bill by giving it government time. So the way this works, guys, it's a bit complicated. Amanda Conn's bill is a private member's bill. It's introduced by an individual person on an issue that they care about. So Amanda Conn, she's an abortionist. She came into the parliament to get more abortions. She says that being an abortionist is an experience of joy and empowerment for her. And so this bill is the culmination of that passion for killing babies. And it is a bill that will take us even further down the road of extremism on abortion. So already we have the most extreme abortion laws in the world. Abortion is legal up until birth in every state and territory, including in New South Wales when it was passed in 2019. That's not good enough for Amanda Conn and now New South Wales Labor. Conn wants to make it so that the Minister for Health has the power to order all hospitals to perform abortions. She wants to remove any data keeping requirements. So at the moment, there's a very simple form that people have to fill, and it allows a modicum of transparency and accountability on what's going on. She wants to remove that altogether, create a cover-up of the abortion industry so it's happening behind closed doors and we just won't even be able to find out what's going on. She also wants to turn nurses and midwives into abortionists through her bill, and she wants to force GPs to be involved in the process of abortion. So this is a violently horrific bill. And as I've been saying to you guys all along, we have to stop it at all costs. Now, because it's a private member's bill, it was only ever going to get 1 hour on a Wednesday for debate. Wednesday in the New South Wales Parliament is called Wacky Wednesday. It's when any of the private members' bills come up for debate. And so what it was going to look like for Amanda Conn was she introduced this early in the year. It's already had 1 hour's worth of debate and there were 6 speeches. And it was going to be debated again tomorrow for another hour. And then the next possible time was May 28. So it was going to have to take a while to get through the New South Wales Parliament. But what has now happened is Chris Minns and Labor has done a deal with Amanda Conn and the Greens to say we're actually going to prioritise this and give it government time. So you can see it's been listed as item number 4 for today, Tuesday. What they're seeking to do is debate it today on Tuesday, debate it tomorrow on Wednesday, debate it again on Thursday, and then ram it through the upper house on Thursday. They predict that it will probably take the longest to get through the upper house because there'll be amendments, and also because there's those, pesky libertarians, there's One Nation, there's pesky people that actually care about the baby, so they exist in the upper house. So it will take a bit longer. But then what they want to do, because they know they've got the numbers to ram this through in the lower house, they want to bring it to the lower house on Tuesday of next week and just get it done. And that is politics, my friends. I mean, I'm still a little bit gobsmacked at how blatant this all is. The fact that, throughout the election campaign, Albo was courting the religious vote. He was turning up to church at St. Mary's, taking photo ops with the Archbishop. There was literally nothing he wouldn't do. He was with the Catholics in the morning, the Greeks in the evening. He was with the Maronites. Labor was throwing money at the Maronites in this campaign to try and convince Catholics to vote for them. Here's Tony Burke even at the pulpit. It was just so blatantly obvious. And I kept hearing from religious leaders, Chris Minns has promised us that this won't go through. He's told us he's blocking the bill won't pass. In fact, Chris Minns gave a speech to the Catholic Maronite Society, and Labor's particularly concerned about the Maronites because they have 15,000 that will turn up to their Good Friday Mass. They've got a very big community in Western Sydney, which Labor needs to win to form government. Chris Minns did a speech to the Maronite Society saying, I'm against this bill, it's against religious freedom, and it will lead to an exodus of health workers in New South Wales. Now, if Chris Minns really believes that this is a bad bill because it's bad for Christians and it's bad for hospitals and health workers, why is he now giving it government time? Like, why is Labor now prioritising speeding up this bill so that it gets rammed through this week and next? He clearly doesn't believe the things that he said in that speech and the things he was saying behind closed doors to many priests, pastors, and religious leaders. I didn't hear this from just one person. I heard this from numerous religious leaders. Joe, the Labor Party has assured us this bill is not going through. So they lied during the campaign. Albo won in a landslide. Labor cabinet met yesterday, Monday, the first weekday after Albo won, and then the caucus met today, and the thing that they decided was, we're going to ram through this bill. It's a total screw you to every person of faith in this country who voted for them. It's a total screw you to everybody in Western Sydney who believed Labor's lies. It's a total screw you to every member of every faith community and congregation when these people turn up to get their photo opportunities, but all the time plotting away for the destruction of children in our country. Look at what these people are doing. This is Mike Friedlander on Good Friday putting Jesus on his social media page. Pro-abortion politician Katrine Hildyard doing exactly the same thing. This is their playbook. And yet every time we have been fooled and people of faith are still voting Labor. And you might be saying, well, the Liberal Party is not much better. But the point is Labor is far worse. You're not going to see the Liberal Party do a dirty deal with the Greens on abortion, but you are going to see Labor do it. And Labor left is controlling the party. Albanese is from the socialist left faction in the Labor Party. Now, he prettied up in the election campaign, talked about how he's coming back to the faith, strategically doing interviews with journalists on that topic. I didn't buy it, and I told you guys that at the time, and the proof in the pudding is today when we can see that Chris Minns, who pretends to be a Catholic as well, is forcing through the most radical abortion bill this country has ever seen. And we know that if it passes in New South Wales next Tuesday, it will be rolled out across the country. That is just the way these things work. In Victoria in 2008, if we had stopped abortion up to birth then, it wouldn't have then been passed in Tasmania, Queensland, New South Wales, the Northern Territory, WA, and South Australia. It wouldn't have made its way around the country. So this is what they want to do, and this is what they're doing. Make no mistake, almost certainly these people are atheists. I'm going to say that again. These people are atheists. We need to let that sink in, because time and time again, we're fooled by them turning up to our churches, putting Christians and crosses on their social media, giving us money, and it lulls us into this security or this fake security that they're on our side. They're not on our side. As I've said to you guys before, Chris Minns was the first Premier of New South Wales to march in the Mardi Gras. Albanese, the first Prime Minister to march in the Mardi Gras. The rainbow woke cult is their religion. It's not the Christian religion. It's not the Muslim religion. They wear the clothes of Christianity in order to deceive people like you and I, but this is not their religion. They have their own religion, and it's not the one we have. So what they're trying to do now is rush through this bill. It's a playbook they've had before. So they did this with euthanasia. They did it with the gay conversion bill. They did it with the equality bill. Now, these names, I sort of want to barf even as I say that. Let me just do a quick recap. So the euthanasia bill was about killing old people, government-assisted suicide. They rammed that through. They gave it government time. They wanted to get it done as quickly as possible. The gay conversion therapy bill, that was a bill that would ban Christians from praying with people that are struggling in their sexuality, people who asked for prayer. This wasn't even about praying with, it was also about praying for. They were banning what you in New South Wales can pray for, and they rushed that one through. The so-called equality bill, well, this wasn't about equality. This was about damaging women and girls. So they call themselves feminists, but it was about taking over women's bathrooms, women's sports, allowing biological men to be in our spaces. And and they rammed that through again. And so actually what you might remember is when we did our first rally way back in March, I think it was March 25, we had found out on March 19 that they were going to do this, that Amanda Conn and Labor were going to ram through this abortion bill within 1 week. Now, we whirred into action, did our rally, did our campaign, letterboxed over 10 seats. We campaigned all the way through the federal election. We had a major victory, guys, because we slowed this right down. But now that the election's over, they've gone straight back to their playbook, which is dirty deals and ramming this through. The second point I want to make is that Labor doesn't need to do this. So what they have told us, and again, it's just been a total lie. So what Minns and his people have been telling us is, oh, well, you know, our hands are tied. Like Minns, he's personally Catholic. He's against this bill. But the Labor Party, they've got this rule. It's in the Constitution. It was passed at the National Conference. And it says that there has to be a conscience vote on abortion. And, you know, Minns, he would love to block this bill, but he just can't do it. Now, this is utter BS. And the reason we know it's utter BS is because in Victoria, the Greens introduced a radical abortion bill earlier this year. They introduced a bill that sought to constitutionalise a right to abortion in the Victorian Constitution. It was a bill that was introduced, it was sitting there on the books, and at that point, it could have proceeded this way, the way it is in New South Wales, where it gets time for debate, it's getting debated, it's getting voted on, Labor has a conscience vote. But that's not what happened. The Victorian Labor Premier, Jacinta Allan, chose to come out publicly and say, we are not going to support this bill. It's a private member's bill and Labor's not going to vote for it. So she didn't give a conscience vote. I don't know where the National Party platform that bound Chris Minns, where it was for Jacinta Allan, because it just wasn't there. She showed leadership. She realised just how damaging and how extreme and how bad the Greens' agenda is. And this is from a woman that's pro-abortion. I mean, Jacinta Allan doesn't claim to be, Catholic and Christian like Minns does. She doesn't do the whole fake act thing. But she's very proud of the fact that she's pro-abortion, and yet even she blocked it in Victoria, and yet in New South Wales, Chris Minns is saying, my hands are tied, very Pontius Pilate of him, and he's saying, I can't do anything about it. And in fact, now what we're seeing is, now that the campaign's over and Labor's got nothing to lose, Minns is actually acting to further the Greens' agenda on abortion. He's actually giving this government time, so he's prioritising it for debate. Now, he doesn't have to do that. This could be a bill that just gets 1 hour on a Wednesday, twice a month. But instead, he's actually prioritising it and giving it hours and hours of government time this week and next week to make sure that this horrible bill becomes law. So where does this leave us and what do we do? The first thing is everybody needs to call MPs. So call and email MPs. They are hoping, I think, that they're catching us by surprise and we're just not going to be able to mobilise into action. I'm going to use a link that ACL has used. Josh has put that together. It's a great link because what it does is you can straight away contact your MPs. I'm also suggesting you don't just contact them via email though. You do actually call them, and that's really important. So I really need you guys to do this. And don't just call one, call all of them and let them know you must vote against this bill. You must vote against this bill or we won't vote for you. This bill is so bad. And that has to be the number one action item. The second action item is the rally tomorrow night. Everybody needs to come to the rally on Wednesday evening at 5:30. It just has to pack out the street. We just have to get a huge showing of people. I already told you guys that there was no good enough excuse for not turning up. Well, that's now been upped to the ante. It's on steroids. This is literally a life or death moment for New South Wales and indeed for our country because, as I said, if this bill passes here, it will be rolled out elsewhere. So the rally at 5:30 on the steps of the Parliament, everybody needs to be there. We need to have the loudest, most rigorous, peaceful protests that we've ever seen. We just need to be there en masse. And that's just the reality. And then Thursday, we're letterboxing a Labor Party seat. It's the seat of Mount Druitt. Again, I'll put the details down below. But also, I'm going to be putting calls to action on my social media. So if you're not following me on Instagram, Facebook, X, or TikTok, now is the time to do that because that's where I'll put the urgent action alerts. When they're debating it in the Parliament, I'm going to be saying, guys, come into Sydney CBD and let's meet, let's get into the chamber, let's be there while they're debating this bill. So this is really now we're in, full throttle campaign mode because we had thought they were going to eke this one out. They're now doing it fast and we need to be ready. I believe that we're on the cusp of victory. So I believe that this is actually something that we could win. You might be wondering, what has prompted all this franticness from Labor? Well, I think in part it's the fact that I emailed Chris Minns on Monday before the Labor cabinet meeting, and I told him what our plans were. I said, the first phase of our campaign has done. We've made the community aware of what's going on. We're obviously going to continue that. We've done all of these letterboxes. We've had our campaign truck. We've had our first rally. But now we're moving into our second phase, which is community activation. And I told him about the new letterboxes, the new initiatives that we were going to be pursuing. And I also said, we will not stop unless you block this bill. Now, I think he's gone and read that, he and his advisors. They've gone and read that and thought, well, she's not going to stop unless we block the bill, but we could make a stop just by passing the bill. I think that's what they're thinking, that if we just pass this bill quickly next Tuesday, yes, it's going to be a horrible week, but we'll pass it and everything will be done. The reality is, and I think Chris Minns and his team needs to know this, and I need you guys to also commit to this with me. The reality is we're not going to stop. So if they pass this bill next Tuesday, that's worst case scenario, say it gets passed, then we actually just have to commit to this campaign. The next state election in New South Wales is in 2027, March 2027. Next year, they will go into campaign mode as a government. So that's one of the reasons as well they want to clear this sort of toxic bill, electorally unpopular bill this year. But what we need to show them is, unlike every other social issue where we lost the fight in the parliament, and then we pretty much gave up the campaign. We just didn't letterbox. We didn't mobilise. We didn't ramp up. I think we need to show them that there's a new sheriff in town. There's a new movement, and that's not our playbook anymore. I think we need to show them that even if this passes next Tuesday, what that means is we will pick the 10 most marginal Labor seats in New South Wales that Labor needs to win to form government in 2027. And we will campaign in those 10 Labor seats right up until the next election with a really big campaign. I feel that's what we've got to do. I'd be interested to know what you think in the comments. But I think we actually need to show them that we mean business and we take this extraordinarily seriously, that we're not just turning up for some rallies during this debate in the parliament. We actually, if it passes, will hold them to account, because that's our job. And as I keep saying, this is not just for us. It is for the sake of our children. It is for the sake of these babies. It's the fact that we have been silent for too long and let far too many things slide. And the moment has come for us to really say, we're just not going to do that again. We're standing up as the people and actually making our voices heard. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I look forward to seeing you in the rally tomorrow. Get busy on those phones and stay tuned with the Dr. Joe Show. Follow me on socials, because this is going to be a massive 7 days. And that's today on the Dr. Joe Show.